And next up is Simon Móricz-Sabján, our last fellowship winner this year. So the floor is yours.
Thanks. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Simon Móricz-Sabján. I would like to welcome to the jury members and everyone, and also thank for the Capa Grand Prize for this opportunity. This inspiration has been especially important and consequential for me because it provided closure to a 10-year-long series, as well as helped launch a new beginning. I have been a photographer for exactly 20 years now, exclusively focused on the human environment and perspective. From early on, often stemming from my own personal inner motivation, I have been driven to produce photo essays. The foundation for my current story was titled Mud Country, which my longest photo series, which I started in 2010, chronicling the lives of Hungarian countryside communities along dirt roads. My initial interest in these subjects led me to Nyújtanak, a small village where I met several families, further fueling my ongoing curiosity towards the people of the great Hungarian plan. These villages and the residents greatly influenced me, their day-to-day lives and the impermanence all around them pulled me in. It became their world was to create an extensive photo series. During my research, I discovered how much of an impact dirt roads had on the people's lives and how inconceivable it was for everyone else to recognize the difference having access to paved roads provides. By now, the story and the series changed, but just like in my work about the Mud Country communities, I have to think long-term and look ahead into the future when working on my permanently overcast series. Even before the Capa grant, I was contemplating how to best move forward and summarize all the ways these effects impacted me. I sense that despite being able to showcase my series Mud Country in many different places, I never felt they were complete or could not be expanded upon. Finally, it became apparent that all my work thus far had been to create the foundation for a new photographic essay. The main focus became to expose the transformation of these places, showcasing the impermanence and unceasing disparities, displaying the results of depopulation and migration, as well as exhibit their questionable future. I am deeply grateful for this fellowship and their acknowledgement. This opportunity provided the final inspiration I needed for my renewed interest for this awakening. This is now my paramount focus. The problem of dirt roads are in the past. My focal point pivoted towards the present and future changes. Unmistakably, therefore, I was contemplating a new title. I considered permanently overcast, or árnyéksáv, the most suitable because it refers to an invisible yet sensible zone that divides one world from that of the rest of society, showcasing the differences. The local change are objectively prominent. If I wanted to conduct an official report, I would further research the studies that predict losing 1/10 of the Hungarian population in the next 30 years, forecasting that by 2050, 4/5 of all Hungarians will reside in towns and cities. Without relying on this research, I can come to the same conclusion after the observation I made during my travels. I witnessed this change firsthand in the Hungarian countryside, up close and personal. I spent years examining and documenting the certain topic, which is vital to allow me to observe and recognize the transformation. As the topics vary, so do the stories and reflections, as do I. We all experience change. Our thoughts, opinions, and perspectives are altered over time. I feel that my new work, Permanently Overcast, was founded on the same principles as my previous series, resulting in a similarly transformative work. I took a more somber and classic report photography approach on my Mud Country series, which later evolved into more refined photos and reflections. A decade later, I perceived the same villages and communities of the great Hungarian plain differently. Along with these communities, I also underwent transformation, therefore making my photographs in a more diverse, unique way. I always think ahead and envision longer series, because as I dive into the layers of my photographic subjects, they reveal themselves just like the layers of an onion over time. A photographic work encapsulating a longer time period can perfectly demonstrate how the thoughts and vision of the creative individual evolve and how their focus may shift from one detail onto an entirely different one. The creative process is paramount to me once the objective is identified. Nonetheless, I cannot always provide solutions to the issues this series present along the process, which are namely, how to restore the survival of these smaller communities and guarantee their future, to what degree the migration spreads to larger towns, and most importantly, whether the people of the countryside will be able to keep their strength and faith in the motherland. It is paramount that whomever I select to portray, I become familiar with their stories, past and future prospects. The portrayal of the countryside has always been salient to me. My view of village life in the great Hungarian plain was greatly influenced by my childhood experiences during the summer holidays I had spent there. In all likelihood, it fueled my passion for these countryside communities and led to their fate becoming so close to me. In recent years, I found an increasing number of deserted streets and abandoned homes. Everything is affected by aging, the retention of the younger demographic, and the preservation of the community's customs and rituals. Their vibrancy is fleeting. The place of birth often determines the course of life for many. I was astonished to find out, after meeting with several elder residents, that often many of them still reside in the same street, some even live in the same house since birth. It is one of the universal truths that country people know that no matter where the power is, the center of the world is the place where they conduct their daily life. Older generations can be lured away from their homeland, even after their children and grandchildren moved on, and they know only loneliness awaits them. The year of 2022 proved to be an especially challenging and defining year. The effects from the current crisis, as well as the results of climate change, became apparent. The increasing temperatures brought unprecedented drought. And it is important to mention that the essence of climate change is the fact that we must be able to face extreme weather conditions. This past summer had severely hot temperatures, and I observed the effects everywhere I went. The dead corn and burnt-out sunflower fields raised concern among many local farmers and forced them to reevaluate the future. In July, along the border of the village of Tömörkén, Feli showed me how much precipitation they registered for the season on their charts. The average precipitation for the previous 5 years was 600 millimeters per year, but the current amount was only measured at a total of 178 millimeters in the Great Hungarian Plain at the end of July. This measurement is only 1/4 of the average normal. There were several wildfires back-to-back, both in the forest and on the field. I discovered the symbol that accurately represented the impacts of extreme heat waves in a forest near Kiskunhalas, a black cher tree standing tall in the middle of a large burn-out field. The tree, to me, perfectly symbolized the year, the story, and also the countryman's unyielding willpower, which, if we can believe this science, he will need to rely on in the future. Both local and global problems determine what the people of the Great Hungarian Plain will have to confront. But the darkest clouds were brought upon them by the current crisis. This brings me you this story. I meet her at the end of July in the small village of Árpád-halom, where she realized her dream in the opening of a small general store at the back of her home. 2 weeks after our first encounter, she was already contemplating closing down her store due to the rising energy cost. After having considered all the factors, she decided to give up on her long-awaited dream. What is more, she has even moved away from the village since then. The small general store, which also functioned as the local pub and the only local pub at the village, is now vacant and remains closed. Judy's story is an increasingly common example resulting from the current rapid changes. Another anecdote I would like to mention is about a couple from Csanytelek who planted over 1,000 tomato seeds in their greenhouse at the beginning of the season. They later decided to abandon their crop of tomatoes after having calculated the rising cost of fertilizer and labor. They realized it was not cost-effective to grow them. The small amount they eat can be purchased locally as needed. If that proves to be too expensive, they will go without eating tomatoes at all. So prices are rapidly increasing, and it's difficult for us to predict what the future holds. From their perspective, the situation is highly complex and complicated. To make matters worse, the events of this current year only aggravate their situation. I sincerely hope the photo series, Permanently Overcast, will be arranged in a final photography album one day, along with the solutions found for some of the problems they have faced. I predict many obstacles ahead, but I'm also witnessing their strength and determination. So, thank you for your attention. I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the support I received from the Capa Grand Prize. And special thanks to Orsi Mohai Nagy, Lila Szántói, Halász Gabi, Marian Robertson, Robbie Meyer, and the whole staff of Capa Center for the installation. And a very big thanks for my family, for my wife, and for my 4 children, for the patience and the good background. So thanks, Catalina, and thanks again.